Hello, gentlemen. We have. I'm not gonna do that. That was cringy as fuck.
Hello, gentlemen.
All right, today we have a tier list with the boys. We are doing a most popular slash best slash worst animes between the three of us. I tried to keep it between shows that either two or more have us seen, but we're definitely going to be hitting a lot of the bigger named animes. Going from right to left, I have with me today Quent. Quent has been one of my best friends for a very long time. And in the middle, I have with me Tyler. Tyler has been one of my friends growing up with me since I was young. So I have put together 45 shows. I think it should be 45. It's between 44 to 46, I think. Either way, we're going to be ranking them between S and F tier. We all have pretty diverse opinions on a lot of popular things, and I think it's going to be really good. Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga is one of the best new animes to come out within the last decade. It shows off some of the great moral themes that instances of murder, war, and treachery in late Britannia, or I believe the 1600s. It's really interesting to watch some characters that have a really harsh reality around them sort of defy those odds, as well as how people who are the exact opposite sort of make worse decisions, and why characters can sort of have the same circumstances but make decisions in different ways. It has some amazing action, really good fighting and choreography. Askeladd is one of the greatest characters I've ever seen. He displays off his intelligence throughout the entire show, and it's really a great sight to see.
So, without spoiling too much, because I know Quent has not yet finished the first season, I think that as a revenge story, it's one of the best out there. Thorfinn, his dynamic with Askeladd throughout the first season is really good. The fact that he's forced to kind of live alongside the person that, spoiler, killed his dad, is a really cool dynamic, and I like the way that it unfolds, and I'm excited to see what season 2 is going to bring.
Vinland Saga is all about the character relationships. I think it's what makes the show tick more than anything. I think the action's really good, and I was a little reserved on the setting, but after giving it a solid chance, I actually really enjoy it now. It's just cool seeing, like, I don't know, it's just like how it's kind of historically accurate in a sense. Like, not all the characters are historically accurate, and I think that's fine because obviously it's a fucking manga / anime. But going back to my original point, the character relations are what make this show. So Askeladd and Thorfinn have one of the most complicated and interesting relationships I've ever seen in a show, because so not only does Thorfinn have to live by his choice, by the way, he has to live with the person that killed his dad, and is also the villain of the show through Thorfinn's perspective. And you get to kind of see how Thorfinn interprets what Askeladd is doing in comparison to what the viewers are interpreting what Askeladd is doing. Because Thorfinn is so blinded by rage and just like wanting to get revenge that he can't always see what Askeladd's truly doing for him. And I think that's one of the best parts of the whole show. It's just great. And like seeing how the characters bounce off each other through things that happen, like with Tors and Askeladd, and Tors and Thorfinn, and Askeladd and Thorfinn. It's just really good chemistry that you can't always notice, but it's really good. I think that's like the highlight of Vinland Saga for me.
I think I can easily rate Vinland Saga as an A.
I was going to go A as well, so I agree with you there.
Yeah, I'm also probably going to give it an A.
Alright, the next show we are doing is Demon Slayer, Season 1 in particular.
To be honest, I didn't hate it, although the characters just kind of... I feel like if you're like an 8-year-old watching it, it's like the perfect show. But as someone who enjoys good characters and character development, this really isn't the best show for me. I still think the action and everything, the fight scenes, everything about it was super fun and super cool to watch. One of my favorite parts about the show was just some of the abilities that some of the demons had that he fought. The guy with the drums that like changed the orientation of the house and stuff, like that kind of stuff was really cool. So props there. But other than that, it was kind of mediocre, to be honest.
Demon Slayer is like it's like hard carried by its animation for being so good constantly. Even when there's like no action going on, the animation is still pretty damn good. As someone who is an aspiring writer, Zenitsu is an absolute stain on any sort of like fictional character development or character in general. Inosuke is just angry boy constantly. I don't hate him, but it would be cool if he developed a little bit. And Tanjiro's just like your average, well-to-do, good lad who can sympathize with his villains even though they do terrible things. Demon Slayer, again, it's just carried by how good and fluid the animation is and has no substance in its story, but has potential in its story, which it never uses. I think Demon Slayer, like the best part of the whole show for me was when Tanjiro like cut open the rock and then like he goes to the place where they go do the test and he like gets vengeance for like the rest of his like former apprentices who died to all the same demon. I think that was like the highlight of Demon Slayer. Otherwise, it's kind of, I don't know, it's very formulaic and just doesn't. It's okay, but it just doesn't do anything great.
Demon Slayer for me was a really interesting experience on what not to do with characters. It really depends on who you ask whether or not some of these characters fulfill their like duties and roles in the world, because the answer is like sort of obvious. It's yes, because it's consistently do a mission to slay a demon or save people, and if they do it correctly, then, or if they do it at all really, then of course they're progressing as characters. Like, it's hard to say that Zenitsu doesn't grow when you watch him like as like a stupid pupil who then learns like the one-hit move and becomes something of himself. It's like easy to say, yeah, well, of course you can look at Zenitsu and be like, he's growing and he's honestly someone I strive to be like. It's really when you look deeper and start to look between the lines on how these characters really flow and act throughout the story that you're kind of like, well, guys, what are we doing? Like, well, come on. My best example is I think Inosuke should be walking around with a punching bag, because as long as he knocks out Zenitsu and Zenitsu falls asleep to enter his hyper mode, they're winning every single fight no matter what. Especially with how strong Zenitsu gets towards the end of the season. He's just destroying Spider Dude without flinching. The biggest threat he had was fear. Like, he didn't suffer any like injury or anything, and it's like, yeah, you did it, but what? It's really lazy writing most of the time. There's a lot of things that the animation studio does that you can easily clap your hands to, and there is a benefit to that. You compare it to a show like Code Geass, and it's like, well, duh, of course I'm giving a 10 out of 10 to Demon Slayer in regards to like just purely the images on the screen. There's decent development with Tanjiro, with how I can't even say that. Wow, I tried to think of a compliment for the show and I fucking lied to
Can I
myself.
ask something too before?
Go for it.
So you said that Tanjiro like gets some development. What sort of like what do you think is his like pivotal development moment in the entire show?
Well, it's the scene in the oh god, what is it called? The Demon Corpse campsite, main camp. When everyone thought that housing a demon would be a stupid thing to do,
Oh,
and everyone
right,
wants
okay.
to kill them for it. And
The
then,
garden,
and
yeah.
then the weirdest and dumbest design, not designed like purposed character ever, with the guy
Eraserhead.
with the guy who like stabs Nezuko a bunch in the
Box.
in the box
Oh
thing.
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Okay.
Yeah.
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 And so Tanjiro obviously sticks up for the guy stabbing his sister, and it's a really empowering moment for everyone there. And then the peace pencilhead guy shows up and says, "Everyone, no kill demon," and everyone's like, "Okay, no kill demon." So.
See, for me, Tanjiro's like development like peaked after his training arc, in my opinion. I think that's like when he peaked as a character. I think he's been static ever since. That might be like really that might not be like a very narrow-minded idea, but that's how I feel about Tanjiro.
I guess he didn't grow, but surely you'd say he peaked when he defends everyone against. Because, like, surely the idea is that if he defends Nezuko, then he's gonna. Like,
yeah, but he's
try and
always
lose his
defended
life.
Nezuko. Like ever since she became a demon, he's defended her. That's why he puts her in that box.
It's the threat of all the other Hashira to kill Nezuko.
That's true. I'm honestly surprised that Hashira didn't kill Tanjiro for.
Oh, they
like...
fucking joke about it.
I know.
Rengoku's first interaction with Tanjiro is, "We should kill you or your demon girlfriend or sister." He didn't. I don't know if he would have known.
And then he becomes a fucking bro in the movie. That's so funny.
I think you guys pretty much covered it.
The animation. I still think the animation hard carries it.
Yeah, agreed.
Demon Slayer ranks at a C for me. I don't know if I could. You could convince me into it being a D.
I could convince you into a B.
No,
but you haven't watched the second season, so yeah.
Well, this is just season 1.
I have no room. Yeah. So I have no room to negotiate or bargain. So I guess C is fine.
I mean, I'm giving it C because I think its animation's like A to S tier. So
that's fair, and I agree that that's like reasonable enough of a reason.
It's like plot's as basic as like Naruto, with some of its
come on!
requests.
Don't even compare this to Naruto. What do you? That's a disgrace on Naruto.
It's true. Jujutsu Kaisen.
The better version.
Jujutsu Kaisen is peak shonen. This is probably my favorite shonen I've ever watched, if we're not counting AOT. So Jujutsu Kaisen has one of the coolest ideas I've ever seen with domains. I think that shit is probably like, it kind of reminds me of like some Sharingan shenanigans, but like everyone can do it. And it's really good. The animation's really good. A lot of people kind of like to shag on the idea that like the premise of Jujutsu Kaisen isn't that good, where it's like, oh, the main character wants himself and everyone else to have a very satisfying and peaceful death, and like he wants people to have that sort of thing going on. I think it's a really cool theme because Itadori is always being challenged on like witnessing and giving out painful deaths. And you really see how he develops as a character as he continues to like do these things, as becoming a jujutsu sorcerer, having to rely on negative emotions, having to kill people that may not be necessarily fully evil. It's great. You were gonna say something, Tyler? I thought Tyler was gonna say something. I heard him. Yeah, I heard him say something.
I don't know. I agree with you that the domain expansion stuff is super cool. I think that this, like, in my head, I just compare this with Demon Slayer so much because I feel like their stories are similar enough, and they're both well known for their animation and their fights and action scenes and all that. I just think that every aspect of Jujutsu Kaisen is better than Demon Slayer. I think the characters are better. I think the character development is better. I honestly even think that the animation, in my opinion, is better. I think that could be argued more than the other stuff, but I think pretty much everything about Jujutsu Kaisen is better than Demon Slayer. I mean, Gojo is pretty much one of the most badass characters like ever.
Demon Slayer has all the breathing techniques, and these sort of affiliate to mostly swords, but it definitely changes, especially with the demons. The demons have really cool attacks and designs, except for fucking Enmu. With Jujutsu Kaisen and its domains, there isn't really a creative deficit that stops it from doing just about anything imaginable. Every character sort of has any jack-in-the-box trait that they'd want to. There's literally just a panda that runs around and does shit. Like, it's incredibly creative how the animation, attacks, and character directive goes, and I think that's what sort of puts it ahead against a lot of other shows that orient towards action.
Another cool thing is so domain expansions have this like mechanic where as soon as someone is inside your domain, your next attack is guaranteed to hit them, which is a really interesting element, I think, for like battling, because with that knowledge in the back of your mind, every time a domain happens, like every time someone's a domain expansion, you're like, oh shit, how are they going to counter this? Are they going to use their own domain to break it? Or are they going to somehow like life hack this to where they can dodge the attack or survive it?
I think I'd rank JJK at... it'd either be a really low A or a really high B. Because there's nothing in B tier right now, it doesn't look standout-ish in just B.
I monumentously disagree.
You think?
I think this is S.
You think
I would have.
I think like compared to every other shonen, this is like the best one. Like
Okay,
ever.
alright. Tell me how each character in the show develops. Unless you think that it does something. So let me put it this way. When we look at Demon Slayer, we go, okay, the animation has an S tier, so it has like 20 out of 100 points of the test correct. How many other points in the test does it have in characters? Yeah. Jujutsu Kaisen, it's a little bit below it, but we already said that it does nearly everything in the show better. But what I'm saying is I don't think it does that much better. But because it's earning so many points across the board, I think it stands out over other shows. However, I don't know how much. But what I wanted to get at was, tell me how each character in the main 5 or 6 from the team, Gojo, and I mean, and then anyone else you'd want to say has like a men's character.
So Itadori develops a lot.
Itadori's easy. I'll give you 100 points for Itadori. You don't even need to say Itadori.
Yeah, Megumi is another character that has some cool develop, but it's a little bit more subtle. So, throughout the whole show, Megumi never tries his best. The only time he actually like goes all out is like near the end of the show after Gojo tells him to be more greedy with like how he wants to perform. And then he just pulls out an unfinished domain and just like goes absolutely insane. It's really cool to watch. And I think it's definitely the start of Megumi's transformation into a much more confident, well, maybe not confident, but like a character who doesn't hold back anything that he has. Someone who actually strives to win battles rather than constantly running away or being like super smart and tactical about it.
I mean, there's potential there. Like, I think... So, I think that I would have slotted it right under Vinland Saga in A, in my opinion. But I think that with the fact that it's only, 24 episodes, I think that there's a lot of potential with the fact that, with where they left off. But I do think... I don't think I can put it in S.
Okay.
But can we at least agree that JJK's like setting is much more realized than Demon Slayer's?
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
Okay, cool.
Everything about JJK is better than Demon
So we
Slayer.
have AOT Season 4 Part 1. And would you look at that? We have hit the loop and I get to start. It's funny because in the failed run of this recording I talked about the season before this, and that was a much more that was more fun to talk about. There are 3 main parts of stories that matter: world building, characters, and plot. We can start with the destruction of the characters. So, Eren Yeager spawns in a new country called Marley, and this country is very Germany, World War II-esque. There is a branded race of people who wear armbands across their city, and these people are looked at as inferior. These individuals are used for the military, and are also used as punishment. I don't quite remember what they're doing at the end of the walls, if you know what I'm talking about. Remember when they're like just shooting them out the walls and kicking them off?
Oh
was
yeah.
was that just prisoners? Because that's like a war crime.
No, I think people I think people who commit crimes are like sent to parodies. I don't know about the ones that are in the airplanes.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, either way, they're committing secret war crimes. We follow a bunch of new characters, including some little twat named Gabby, who eventually becomes a decent character. We follow a few blonde-haired kids. Their names are eluding me, but they're very honorable, and they fight for each other.
And something else.
Colt.
Yeah, Colt.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Cole, that's Falco's older bro.
Their plot lines aren't too bad. It's really not the worst of it. Eren spawns in Marley, and Eren is this defunct, depressed, injured, what would it be? Handicapped individual who has this awful, nihilistic outlook on society as a whole. And we follow him as he commits a secret plan to absolutely obliterate and annihilate the people of Marley in an attempt to seek revenge on people who have harmed his people and his country and his friends and family for so long. And it's really an intriguing prospect at the beginning of it, because we don't quite understand why he's here and why he's doing the things he does, until we see that the old friends of Yonder, Mikasa, Hanji, Levi, everyone is back attacking Marley in their plot to invade and overthrow the people who have been oppressing them for so long. Eren annihilates everyone and steals one Titan.
One Warhammer.
Steals the Warhammer Titan and comes back to his country and his friends and family and tells them all to fuck off. And tells one of my favorite characters some very groundbreaking news. We can start talking about Mikasa Ackerman. Mikasa had always been a great character until Astoria came into the fray as someone who thought she was perfect for Eren. Turns out her whole purpose as an Ackerman is directly related to her blood. And because Eren is who he is, Mikasa has been unconsciously forced to protect him, which basically defeats the entire purpose of all of her actions she's ever done. If Eren is lying, then everything Mikasa does after she finds out this information doesn't make sense, because she goes along with it. And it's proof, especially in the first episode of part 2 of season 4, when she directly brings it up. And it's really embarrassing, because it destroys one of my favorite characters who actually had a very cool sort of mystery, but also it was obvious that she had strengths because of her blood. And obviously, with the troubled upbringing and her friends that she's found ways to overcome that with, it was pretty inspiring, until they crash and burned it. Armin is now an important, basically, nuke. Like, he can just win any fight at the direct cost of everybody around him. I guess you wouldn't want to use that, so I guess it's good that he's a smart-headed person, but he doesn't do anything anymore, except for just spectate. Zeke comes into the fray. So turns out that um, Aaron had a long-lost brother inside of Marley who got to live as the opposite experience of Aaron. Aaron got to live with his mother and father in Paradise. His father was trying to keep the secrets of Marley that he knew away from Aaron, but he knew that he eventually should find out about this. I don't even know how to explain this. His father does things swayed by exterior forces that will come into the process of consideration, but it's all...
You could basically just say that Zeke was the beta gameplay footage of Grisha's parenting.
Yeah, basically Zeke didn't get parented well, so he has a really shitty outlook on society as a whole, which is fine. But then Aaron's like, "Yo, Zeke, that's a great idea. Let's fucking kill everyone." And I hate all of it, and it's all just so bad, and it all leads to just some terrible, terrible, terrible destruction of everything. I guess if I'm gonna keep going with the formatting, so the world building is just ruined. Basically, by making Marley this obvious villain that does these super evil things, it sort of makes it really easy to cheer for the good guys. You don't have any reason to go, yeah, Marley's really likable. I'm glad that they're just killing people and turning them into titans so that they can go fuck off.
For me, Attack on Titan season 4, I pretty much agree with everything Justin said. But there's like one thing that I like about season 4 part 1, and like it's basically how the Titans on Marley's side are weaponized. I found it pretty interesting, and I also found it interesting how every other nation has developed anti-Titan weaponry, just like Paradise, but it's a little bit different because it's a bit more modernized technology, but not really, because it still stays within the realm of like World War II-esque technology. I like that a lot. I think that was fine. Reiner carries the entire show on his back, so he basically goes from a character who defines himself as a warrior, but then in season 4 he finds himself in a major conundrum because he cannot let go of his experiences and relationships that he had on Paradise, and it constantly plagues and haunts him to the point where he would rather just commit suicide than to live anymore with people that he actually cares about. Which is really, really good. And I think it's actually kind of a natural development of Reiner's character, if I'm being honest. Other things about season 4 that I didn't like, oh god. They basically just echoing what Justin said, they basically ruined every character besides Reiner. And any characters that didn't get ruined have so little screen time that you just kind of forget that they're even relevant in the first place. Like Historia, nowhere to be found. Levi has a moment in the forest at the end of the season. Hanji, I don't know where Hanji even is throughout the whole. I can't even remember like a scene with Hanji at all in season 4, at least in the first part. Another thing that bugs me about season 4 is the animation quality takes a substantial drop. So there's a lot of CGI. A lot of the Titans are made out of CGI. The colors are a lot more washed out, in my opinion. It doesn't look as good. And the music's okay. I think that's the only really good positive thing besides Reiner I can say. The music's alright.
I pretty much agree with all of your takes, both of you. But I do want to add, I think that the way they started this season was actually really cool.
I agree.
I think the fact that they started it just showing you all these new characters in a new place that none of us knew about up to that point, or like we knew we kind of had implications, but we didn't actually know. And they just throw you right into it. I remember Justin showing that to me for the first time, and I was like, "What am I watching? Like, what is this?" And then it made me want to watch more, but then the rest of the season sucked, so I kind of was like, ah. But I think they started off on the right foot. I think that was a really good way to just bring you into, hey, this is what's actually going on. And I strongly agree with your take on Reiner, Quent. I think his character is just very well done. I think that they show little glimpses of it in the earlier seasons. Like, I think when they're on the treetops, when they kidnap Ymir and Eren, you see a glimpse of him having, like, what I guess you'd call, like, split personalities. Like, he thinks that he's still hanging out with Eren and John and all them, and, like, they're just boys, but then really it's just his brain trying to make him forget all the horrible things that he's been through and done and all that. And obviously, talking about season 4, it's just progressed to a point where he's kind of just dead. He's just like living because he has to, but he doesn't really want to be there. And yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty impactful, but other than that, wasn't a big fan of this one, to be honest.
I think I'm going to firmly put season 4 part 1 into D tier. I think it takes everything that I liked and destroys it, and the only things that we liked, like Reiner and a few of the introductory portions, solely derive it above an F.
It barely escapes F for me.
It's so tough for me. Tyler, what do you?
So in my opinion, I think it's not as bad as Demon Slayer. But I think the implication of how good the first 3 seasons was to this, it's kind of got the Game of Thrones effect, where like the show was phenomenal, and then season 8 came, and it's just like, oh, gross. It kind of took like such a great show, and it kind of was like, oh, wow, this is where you went with it. So for that reason, I would probably put it below Demon Slayer. By itself, I'd put it above Demon Slayer, though.
Here's the question I gotta ask. So if we're comparing this to Demon Slayer, is one really good character that carries a show better than a show with 3 characters that don't carry the show at all, but at least are not as ruined and insufferable as season 4's, the way they change their characters?
Well, I think Demon Slayer, the characters weren't good at all.
So they never had potential to be ruined, basically.
Yes. Whereas like the characters were like getting there, and they all had, like, there's a bunch of characters that you could say had good character arcs, good character building throughout. And
absolutely.
Then season 4 kind of assassinated it, and for that reason, it's kind of tough to put it any higher than D.
I can put it past Demon Slayer, but like I'd have to drop Demon Slayer to D to do that. I don't think Attack on Titan season 4 is worthy of a C.
No, I only think that it's above Demon Slayer by itself. Like, if you're not if season 4 part 1 was its own show, its own whatever 12 episodes or 16 episodes, then I'd put it above Demon Slayer. But because it had to
had to fill in shoes.
Exactly. I would put it below, definitely. I wouldn't be mad low C, but I'm totally okay with high D or just D in general, because
we'll see. We'll see.
I'm hard stuck on D, to be honest. Like, I could put it in F, but it has a few things going for it where I can't reasonably put it in F, like with a good conscience.
It's not going in F. It's not that
I don't
bad.
think I could put it F, yeah.
But I don't know. I could be persuaded into putting it into C. I don't think it's better than Demon Slayer.
I think we should wait and see what happens with the rest of the tier list.
All right. Yeah. Is it Heaven's Veil?
But
It's not good. F.
season 3 part 2.
Yes.
Yep.
We saw. Okay.
After talking about season 4 part 1, I think a big reason why season 4 part 1 sucks is because this season is so good and it follows right after it. I think there's just so much, like, this is just basically what the show had been leading up to the whole time. so all that suspense is kind of coming to fruition, because you're wanting to know when the hell they're going to the basement. Who's this dude with the glasses, the big hairy titan, all that stuff. And you kind of figure out a lot of stuff in this season, or in this part of the season. On top of that, just that the battle in Shiganshina is like one of the best arcs, if you call it that, in like anime ever, in my opinion. Just Erwin's charge is phenomenal, and then the episode with Armin and Eren fighting against Bertolt is like one of the best episodes of anime in general. Not to mention just Levi just assassinating every Titan and then getting to Zeke with no problem was pretty sick as well. I think we all have pretty similar opinions on this one. It's pretty high up there for me, but I'll let someone else go.
So for me, Attack on Titan Season 3 Part 2 is literally it's literally just the season of payoff after payoff after payoff after payoff. Everything that they've set up throughout the entire show, character arcs, what's the reason, what's in the fucking basement, this, that, the mystery of the Titans, every single thing is answered in this season. And you get a little bit more because there's some really, really good action, like Tyler was talking about, like Levi fighting all the Titans that the Beast Titan conjures up is really sick. And it also harkens back and is a reference to what Season 4 ultimately does to fuck Mikasa's character, where Levi is driven by his promise to Erwin to perform such a monstrous feat, and it's really great. Erwin's charge is absolutely phenomenal. It is a very powerful scene in every aspect. The final part, one of the last parts of the season where they have to make a decision on whether to save Erwin and Armin is extremely powerful, and it makes you ask a lot of questions as a viewer about who you think is like actually the good choice compared to like what choice they do make in the show. It's just great. And since this is before Season 4 Part 1, I actually give it more credit. It's like, this is a season that you can watch. You don't even have to watch Season 4 Part 1 to get closure on the series, I feel like. You just have to watch this, and that in and of itself is an achievement. So, absolutely amazing.
If you don't know about anything that happens in Season 4, Season 3 Part 2 is one of the best anime seasons ever. There is so little downtime in this season, and just about every single thing has some sort of thematic semblance, whether we're talking about the Erwin situation, Reiner Eren, obviously basement's been said a few times. I think the ending of the season has one of the biggest thematic payoffs, like Quent had said. The idea that these kids who have felt the systematic oppression from both Titans and the people overruling them, and having sort of conquered both of them, alongside some help from some very important and really smart people, show how they have grown in so many different ways than just as like killers. Because yeah, they had to kill a lot of people, but it's the end result that you'd like to think is going to put past all of the treachery and villainous actions that have put them sort of, that have oppressed them for so long. And that's why when you look at what happens in Season 4, it sort of nullifies all of the misgivings that they've done in these earlier seasons, because there isn't that ethical payoff that justifies everything they do in these seasons. Obviously characters like Levi don't think about that kind of shit, but you'd like to think that Eren at one point cared about something like that. This is going to be an S tier for me.
Yeah, I don't think there's any disparity there.
Nah,
completely agree.
There's literally, I don't like, if you ask me what my favorite season, like 12 whatever episodes, I would probably say this. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like there's no filler. Every episode does something. Yeah, S easily.
All right, we
Do
have.
I have to start?
Oh,
Yes, you
dude,
do.
you
Oh,
do. Have
God.
fun.
All right, ready?
Go for it.
So Angel Beats is a show about amnesiacs fucking go. It's literally worse Death Parade, actually, now that I think about it. Okay, let's just get the big bad out of the way. This show tries to be funny sometimes, and it's not.
Dude,
The
this show's
main
hilarious. What are you talking about?
don't even start. The
The
comedy in the show is
graduation ceremony was
awful.
banter.
No, dude, yeah, let's make the
Graduation
most
ceremony.
emotional scene in the show and let's crack some jokes while everyone's like disappearing in front of us. That's
It
epic.
happens so fast. All of
Oh
a sudden,
my
they're just like
God.
graduating.
Dude, this show, like, from start to... Okay, I'm not gonna lie. When the show starts and the dude wakes up and there's a girl with a fucking Halo-ass looking sniper rifle, it's pretty, like... It's pretty good hook, right? And then she's like, oh yeah, there's this angel that we gotta kill. And it's like this fucking lolly. I'm like, oh yeah, that's very threatening. You definitely need a sniper rifle for that. I will give them credit, though. They do make her, like, pretty cool. Because, like, she has some cool powers and stuff. I don't have much to say about the show because I didn't like any of it at
I
all.
do. This show is a trip. It is the experience of taking drugs, and the main character is on drugs. And it is a good reflection on why drugs are bad, because at the very end of it, he is relieved because he is finally off of the drugs, and he still sees shit. So, this show is a good representation of why that is bad.
And then there's a part where they go to a gun factory and like, what the
Holy
fuck is
fuck.
happening?
Yeah.
They try to make a deeper meaning to the chick that just
Yeah.
wants to play like a piano off in the distance.
Oh my God.
But
I
don't
don't
worry,
get
they're
it.
trying to like kill you though, but they never actually kill. Did they like anyone die? I don't.
No one dies. Like, there's a conflict, and then they just become friends with her, and they go fishing and shit. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
All right, Tyler, do you have any good ideas?
I don't know. I just remember, like, I don't remember too much from the show, but I just remember watching it and like almost every episode just being confused at the end and just being like, what the fuck am I watching? I don't know. I don't remember like hating it. I just don't remember caring about what was going on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just didn't care. And, like, they pull such a cheap heartstring pull at the end. It's like, of course they're gonna get upset because they fucking, like, build it up. But don't worry, there's, like, 5 fucking jokes right before that happens where they're joking around about fucking dying and shit. That's cool.
Yeah, this is my first anime ever. So when I first watched it, I'd probably rank it like A or B. But I'm glad now that I have seen the vision that instead of ranking it in A or B, I shall rank it in low D.
I'm giving it an F.
You're going F, really?
Wow.
Tyler, what are you going?
I don't. I mean, here's the thing. I don't remember ever being upset with the episodes, right? Like
What
for
the
what
fuck
it
is
was,
going on?
I was just like it was fine. I watched it. I don't remember ever being like, wow, this episode sucked. I just remember being like, okay, cool. And then
That was a
on.
thing that happened.
So I don't think I'd put it F, but I also don't know where the fuck I'd put it.
Here's the thing, right? I'm like blowing out of proportion my reaction, how I actually feel about the show. Because I agree that it's like the most inoffensive thing you will ever see in your life, but it does nothing else. It's just like literally stone face from start to finish for me. So,
Well,
I guess D's fine, but I still think F because at
Yeah.
least Attack on Titan season 4 had a plot
yes.
of some sort, even if it was
That's
terrible.
true.
Yes. Shield
have fun,
Hero,
guys.
season 1. Who gets to start here? It's
You
me.
start.
No. Fuck.
Yeah, have fun.
That's
So
right.
Tyler hasn't
Nope.
seen this.
Well, I have some pretty exotic views. This show is pretty good for a solid 5 episodes. The first 5 episodes surround our shield hero, who is this dude who gets poofed into this kingdom that has 4 noble equipment users, sword, lance, bow, shield. For some reason, there's a defensive option, whatever. The defensive option is the least defensive item of the 4. is the most offensive. Shield Hero is basically a outcast in society because a religious group specifically designated to oppress the Shield Hero is in this world. And basically it makes it so it pressures society into having everyone think that the Shield Hero is a bad dude for no reason. And we follow the Shield Hero as he tries to overcome this. And he resorts to finding a slave rat girl to help him grow. As this show is an RPG, they implement some RPG elements that are actually pretty cool. They have him learn skills by doing basic tasks and acquiring things in the world. Through this, he learns these cool abilities that allow him neat utility functions and help him in various ways. At one point, he has a shield that he uses to block things, and then he uses the same shield as a basically platform to step on. So they have some cool, unique ideas that are used with his abilities. That being said, during the first 5 episodes, he is at his lowest point, and there is a really cool Coliseum scene where we see him basically being shunned, cheated, scammed, and humiliated by everyone in front of the king and all of his loyal subjects, and this awful, awful villain chick who is just one of the worst things I've ever seen. She tricks one of the spear hero into doing shit for her to basically fuck over the shield hero, because why the fuck not? And it's just ridiculous that the spear hero is just so obedient and oblivious to her. When everyone else is making fun of and laughing at Shield Hero, Raftalia is there to comfort him and basically say that it's gonna be okay and that she's there for him, and it's a really empowering scene. And then the show shits the bed. Shield Hero doesn't become Shield Hero anymore and becomes anything he wants hero.
He becomes a Black Ops 1 nuke from zombies, basically.
But he can do so much more than anything you'd ever think that he can.
With a shield? Yeah.
They implement and they implement these crazy, basically inverted ways to give him power. I'll say inverted, but if you have seen the show, you'll sort of understand what I mean. I'm trying to keep it vague. It completely overdoes the utility values that he got out of the very limited things that he could do. And it ruins sort of the whole RPG aspect, because it's who the fuck cares if he can do these crazy stuff where he just needs to basically outwill himself to doing these things. But I get it, there was a sort of drawback, but of course he's the protagonist, so we overcame it. The whole church is one of the stupidest things ever. Any intellects in society would question why the fuck this thing would exist, but alas, it's a kingdom in the old ages, so a church rules everything, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. But that's not going to stop the plot from being fucking stupid when everyone does something dumb for no goddamn reason, like hating Shield Hero. Raftalia is one of the only saving graces of the show. She's really fun and unique to the show because obviously she's a slave when she starts, and we watch as she grows. And she gets really pivotal moments that could have emphasized great thematic points, but they spit on its face. Towards the end of the show, her being a slave girl, she'll have continuous thoughts of wanting to seek revenge and basically get back at society for fucking her over so much. And there's ways to write it so that she doesn't come off as a villainous prick, but the show didn't do that. She picks the bad option in the dialogue tree. That was the obvious bad option, and it ruins everything because she's just as evil as the people that wronged her. And it's cool, cycle continues, but obviously the cycle won't continue because they think that they did the right thing. It has a couple of things going into season 2 that people can be excited for that you can't strictly go, oh, this is going to be bad or not, because they have some things with the queen that was working in the side to help the shield hero. A side character that's basically a chocobo girl is one of the stupidest things that was ever introduced. It created this really, really stupid love triangle, and it didn't matter really if you liked the father-daughter relationship or the lover relationship between Raphtalia and Shield Hero, because it sort of forces the love triangle, and I'm pretty sure they make jokes directly relating to the love of the three of them, or Raphtalia specifically. And so it's like, all right, you guys not only made up your mind, you picked the worst option by implementing a fucking chocobo girl into the thing. I don't think it's one of the worst shows ever, but it definitely screwed up a lot of its payoffs towards the end.
So you pretty much touched upon every point that I like. If you weren't gonna talk the love triangle part, I was going to, but since you did, I'm glad you did. Another issue I have with Shield Hero is just how fucking dumb everyone is, besides Naofumi. Like, so every single hero besides Naofumi fucks up, and it's really funny because Naofumi's the one who has to fix all their mistakes. So not only does it make Naofumi look good, it makes everyone else look completely and utterly worthless. And I don't know if that's good or bad, because like,
oh yeah, they tried to tackle the side effect of heroes being heroes.
yeah,
And they like made it like even worse.
yeah.
I think they had Shield Hero like try and clean up, but then when Shield Hero did it, he would fuck up too. And I was like, what the fuck are you, like, what is the lesson here? You're not giving one
Yeah,
anymore.
there's no lesson. And it's like they're also presenting problems for Naofumi to overcome that have no payoff whatsoever, because he's the Shield Hero, so no one cares what he does for the most part.
Or no, they don't care.
At least I will give
don't
the show
care,
credit. He
it's-
does get some credit at least, but it's not enough to like make it feel satisfying.
It's not that they don't care what he does, it's that they discriminately think whatever he does is bad, no matter what.
Even though everyone
so it's
else does things
frustrating.
worse than him.
Yes, so it's super frustrating to watch, and that's why Shield Hero gets it's worse than Demon Slayer, but it doesn't destroy shit as much as AOT destroys stuff. I could see above AOT here or just below and see.
I think below. One thing I was gonna touch on, the last thing, was that so the show sets things up for the first 5 episodes in a really cool way, and then the rest of the show proceeds to deconstruct all of these things as it progresses. So like,
you got me.
One of my favorite examples is when Naofumi picks up a sword and it rejects him, and then later his shield just turns into a weapon anyway. They set him up to be a defensive exclusive character, and then they just give him a nuke.
Oh, but they do so far worse
with the rage shield. Right. They just give him a fucking nuke.
Okay,
so guys, I just came back.
Holy shit! What was that?
Oh my god! Epic timing, bro.
The next one. No game, no life.
This show is interesting because, I'd probably say I don't know. I think I might be the biggest fan of it out of the 3 of us, but I'll wait to hear your takes after. But, I think that the games, it's just a fun show. Like, I feel like each show being its own game, or each episode being its own game, and then them finding a way to outsmart whoever they're playing against is a fun dynamic. And I think that this show, out of any other shows, after watching it and then finding out that they're not continuing it, I was pretty disappointed, I'm not gonna lie. I was excited to see where the show was gonna go, because I thought that it had a lot of potential where it left off. And I think the idea of all of the, whatever it was, 16 different, I don't want to call them districts, but like different groups of whatever they are, like the elves, like all the people. Yeah, whatever they are. Like this, I think there's 16 of them. I think it would have been cool to see them go through each and every district to finally get all those chess pieces so that they could play. He could play, what's his name, Tet or something.
Yeah.
The kid.
The game master, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, I think that would have been really cool, and it could have came to an actual conclusion. But you know, sometimes you don't get what you want. Um, but I do think, I think there's definitely some wrong with it. But I thought it was funny. I thought a lot of the games were fun, and I think overall it was a pretty good show.
So I've like, I don't know. So like every time I used to think about No Game No Life, I used to think about how much I didn't like it. Now when I think about it, I think about how unique it was as a show. So like, I really like the formula they had, like Tyler was saying. I like all the games. I think they're all fun. I like I like the word game the most because I think the animation for it is just really fucking fun. The only issue I have with this whole show, like, honest to God, is I just wish they would develop the characters a little bit more. They just seem so. And I get it, right? It's like you got this show where they play these fun games, and like the two main characters are isekai and their fucking gigantic brain or whatever. But like, it just would have been like, because they had some potential with some of the character growth, like with the brother and sister. Like, there's the part where the brother leaves for like a little while, and the sister like loses her mind. Like, that was good stuff. Keep doing that. But again, that's really the only issue I have with the show. All the characters either seem kind of static or they don't develop enough for me to like feel super invested in them. And I get that's not the whole point of the show, but it would have helped. But otherwise, pretty decent show. Like, this to me feels like the most like on average good show.
The world building's great. The plot is decent enough where that the individual plot aspects are really unique. Like the way that they changed the chess game into something different than what chess is. It spices things up to an extent, and the extent is good enough, especially with how crazy some of the things that they do are. The fact that the potential for such a great season 2 doesn't quite limit it for me, but it's one of the most important talking points about this show, so I don't know how I would judge that, but the lack of more and the lack of payoffs for a lot of what this show is going to do definitely stinks.
I'd probably put it B tier.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is the most B tier show. Like, if I had to pick.
Yes.
Like, I'd 100% put it over Demon Slayer. I don't think I can put it over JJK, though.
Fate Zero. Fate Zero, when I first watched it, was incredibly intriguing. I think Kiritsugu's character development and basically the character study they have for him is pretty impressive. That being said, the overall plot isn't quite impressive. The idea of the chalice and the cup is really unique. Dare I say, stands are honestly very cool. The animation quality is very good. The animation quality was above average, especially I think it came out in like 2010 or 11.
Yeah, it's relatively old, somewhere around there, yeah. I think the concept of the whole show just being like a war for the Holy Grail is a cool concept. The tension between Kiritsugu and I think his name is Kirei Kotamine or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. Like, I thought that was great. I believe you get a backstory episode on Kiritsugu, and I thought that was a really good episode. It kind of gave you more information on why Kiritsugu acts the way he does, and like shows you kind of why he believes what he does. And although he's not like the greatest person ever, and he does kind of end up beating Lancer in a kind of an unfair way, I do believe that when you're watching the show, you are rooting for Kiritsugu, or at least I was. And the last fight between Kiritsugu and Kirei was like, when I watched it, I loved it. I thought it was great. The animation, especially for its time, is S tier. Is very good. And I honestly think that if I were to rewatch it, I'd appreciate it more than I do. I think the first time I watched it, I kind of don't know. I wasn't as into the plot more. I was more into just like, hey, cool flashy lights. But I think if I were to rewatch it, I'd probably rank it higher than I'm going to today. So
Now that I think about it, the plot is more simplistic, and I'm sort of upset at the simplicity of it because it's just the Grail War. Everything comes down to this Grail War. Everyone's
Yes.
motivation directly relates to the Grail War, but it's not that that's that bad because a lot of the interplay between that is actually pretty good.
Yes.
And I also something I understand the like history that they sort of imply with a lot of the champions is really cool. I sort of kind of like the idea that some of them were based off of historic figures. They do that with all of them. I realized that after watching that, so I don't know how much I actually like it now that they're basically just ripping off of history. But it does have some of the better tournament arc stuff in it, especially since it definitely was one of the first ones to do a lot of crazier sort of ultimate fighter competitions.
I think another cool aspect was the fact that Saber fights so nobly, and like Kiritsugu's kind of the opposite. Like he kind of just wants to win, and he I really liked that fight with Saber and Lancer, because they're fighting the whole time, but they're like kind of just not scumming their way to a win. Like I don't remember exactly how it goes down, but I do remember there's times where Saber can take advantage and she doesn't, to be like an honorable fighter, but then showing Kiritsugu's dark side at the end when he cheats his way to a win. I thought that was a really cool dynamic, because especially that part for me, like kind of caught me off guard, and I was like, oh wow, like that's kind of a cool way to show it.
It's hard not to mention that fight when you're talking about some of the best stuff and then actually some of the worst stuff that happens in the show.
For sure.
Yeah, I think I'm putting it at B. I think I'd put it above No Game, No Life, because I think the action actually overdoes the jokes, and some of the payoffs that No Game, No Life doesn't have compared to the payoffs that Fate Zero at least does for at least most characters. But obviously you're not cheering for like the creepy ass dude. I can't remember.
I know who you're
You know,
talking about.
yeah. But what do you think?
But No Game No Life makes JoJo's references.
Oh God,
so
stop! Do we really want to put it ahead because of that?
I wouldn't say that's the reason why, but honestly, I think I would have had it right where you had it while we were talking about it, like below No Game No Life.
I'll do that.
I do think that maybe if I rewatched it, I'd rank it higher. But from what I remember, that's where I would put it.